for the USA to have defeated the German Nazis in World War II, because we see it as a political victory for democracy over the concept of a state tyranny. However, what few realize is that this war was only fought by we the people, but was orchestrated, fomented, and commanded on both sides by the conspiracy. The Skull and Bones secret society Yale College campus fraternity had already grown extremely influential and had produced several men already who had entered politics and gone on to hold high offices in U.S. democracy, even while totally committed to not only loyalty to the Bavarian Illuminati's goals expressed as the Protocols, but also to secretly funding Adolf Hitler's Third Reich under the German Nazis. These men were war criminals and national traitors guilty of treason, but despite including many subsequent presidents of the USA, their names are inconsequential footnotes beside the goals of those hidden conspirators who truly ruled the world at that time. Thus, we can say they were the only true winners of World War II, and their ideals, as expressed by Aleister Crowley, their modern-era mouthpiece, have utterly usurped the real goals of the Gnostic Christians and the Hermetic Templar Rosicrucian Freemason Jacobins. The losers of the last aeon have included the words and message of the true historical person of Jesus, which were lost at the time of Constantine to the Catholic message of the crucifixion, superseding the symbol of the ichthos fish with the symbol of the Christian cross. The Templars were the next group to lose, betrayed by the Roman Catholic Pope of the Christian Church for revealing the true Gnostic doctrine of Jesus' own Christianity. The Hermetic Templar Rosicrucianism of Dr. John Dee has also been diluted in meaning and relevance by the Golden Dawn cipher documents, reforming his cult to a new degree system and a New Age religion designed by Aleister Crowley. The original perfectibilist order of Dr. Adam Weishaupt, which began as a correspondence course participated in by the greatest intellects of his day, was destroyed in its purge from Bavaria and reshaped into a tool of evil. The penultimate losers to the conspiracy over the last aeon are the free and accepted Masons, whose anti-papist origins in Jacobin secret societies has resulted in somehow implicating them in the originally Jesuit conspiracy of the Illuminati to overthrow all democratic governments and replace Christianity with Satanism. The final and biggest losers over the last aeon to the evil plotting of the triumvirate conspiracy of assassins have been the American people, who for the entire 20th century were being bred, trained, and paid to serve the will of these secret elites. These elites have gained their authority by purchasing the buying power of privately owned banks. They can loan any sum beyond their own savings and charge limitless interest rates on this loan. Thus, the Bavarian perfectibilists began as intellectuals and Freemasons, but by the time they were purged as the Illuminati, they had already acquired control of the financial institutions of Europe and formed the first privately owned national banks. The Skull and Bones frat graduates of Yale came to occupy most of the offices of highest authority in the U.S. democracy by the turn of the 20th century, and assumed a massive level of control over the military might of the USA by the era of World War I. Following World War I, the United States Congress was forced to adopt a privately owned central bank as the sole no-bid contractor to the National Democratic government, and this bank proceeded to crash the U.S. stock market and bring about the Great Depression that would lead America toward further economic dependence. Both world wars were fought to spread the reach and strength of the concept of central banks, and by the end of the First World War, during the ratification of the Treaty of Versailles that would financially bankrupt Germany and allow the Nazis to usher in World War II, the members of the First Federal Reserve Board of the U.S. partnered with their European counterparts to form the Council on Foreign Relations, or CFR. As their influence expanded across Asia as well, by the 1940s, the conspiracy expanded its Round Table think tank's membership to include Asian nation representatives, and the result was the formation of the Trilateral Commission. Other organizations, such as the Media and Political Organizing Bilderberg Group, below the CFR, and the above top secret level alien cover-up group called Majestic 12, below the Trilateral Commission, are so confidential they do not even have emblems. All the living members of these round table think tank occult political groups worship together annually at a resort called the Bohemian Grove Camp, where they practice ritual human sacrifice to a giant statue of an owl symbolizing Malak. This entire schema of groups outside the U.S. democratically elected government comprise what is today considered the shadow government that is really running the world, the conspiracy responsible for staging all world events of any consequence on all scopes of scale. Following the neocon coup d'etat during the staged recount of the 2000 elections for U.S. president, when the grandson of a Nazi sympathizer, son of a skull and bonesman, George W. Bush, was appointed to a democratically elected position by the U.S. Supreme Court, despite not having been elected by Democratic votes, the shadow government became the de facto rulers of the USA. It is worth a brief examination of how these occult round table groups have assumed power over the democracy of the USA, since they represent the globalist agenda of the international conspiracy to destroy democracy and all national sovereignty and replace them with a single global king. The shadow government conspiracy we know of as ruling behind the scenes today was not always believed to be the natural result of an inherent and exploitable flaw in U.S. constitutional concepts of American democracy as it is seen as today. Originally, U.S. constitutional American democracy was a working concept that had no need of a central bank nor any form of direct taxation, such as income tax, to fund its public works projects. Smaller government meant a larger private sector, and eventually corporations began to outlast their government contracts. To police the American people from interstate commerce crimes, such as corporate price fixing, tax evasion, and criminal racketeering, the U.S. created the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, during Prohibition to bust up rum-running rings run by low-level thugs like mafia gangsters. The logo of the FBI was the shield of the Justice Department. Following World War II, many of the Nazi funders and skull and bones men who owned the U.S. Federal Reserve Central Bank founded the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, to spy on the enemies of America in foreign countries, namely the Soviet Russians who came to power following the Rockefeller funding of the Red Revolution under Vladimir Lenin. In the logo of the CIA an eagle raises its head from behind a shield that bears a Red Cross star on a white field. The next wing of the national intelligence community formed following the CIA was the National Security Agency, the NSA, whose main task was deciphering encoded enemy communications during the Cold War between the USA and Soviet Union. The NSA logo shows the eagle holding a key behind the US flag on a shield. The CIA and NSA are governmental departments in the U.S. intelligence community that are equivalent in status and rank system in the private sector to the armed personnel of the U.S. military, and all of these answer to the orders handed down to them from the U.S. Department of Defense, or DoD, operated out of the Pentagon building in Washington, D.C. The seal of the DoD depicts the American flag-shielded eagle in flight, holding 3 arrows to symbolize the weapons of war coming in the form of death from above. The intelligence community and armed services under the DoD and the Pentagon in turn answer to the Commander-in-Chief of the entire U.S. government, the democratically elected President of the USA. The seal of the Executive Office of the U.S. is almost identical to the front of the Great Seal of the U.S. and shows the eagle aloft bearing a banner in its beak reading E Pluribus Unum, meaning one for all, and holding in its talons a bundle of arrows in one and a bundle of olive branches in the other. However, since 9/11/2001, the neocons who assumed authority over the democracy of the USA established a concept called continuity of government, or COG, that allows a redundant location for all essential government personnel in a deep underground base in the event of a nuclear war. The logo of the group of security personnel manning these bases and their satellite concentration camps, the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, shows the presidential eagle aloft, however replaces the flag of the USA on the shield in front of the eagle with symbols of land, sea, and air, signifying global U.S. military dominance. The neocons adopted a variation of the U.S. flag as their logo, but enacted the legislation of warrantless wiretapping, kidnapping to and torture at secret death camps of suspected terrorists who are not only citizens of foreign nations, but include also citizens of America as well. The neocons of the W. Bush administration are not loyal to the U.S. Constitution of American democracy they took their oaths of office to protect, and do not value democratic ideals, but instead value the ideals expressed in the protocols and swear allegiance in secret at Bohemian Grove to the conspiracy of assassins. The neocon shadow government mechanism remains attached to the U.S. constitutional American democratic government in the form of these alphabet soup agencies, even now in 2011 AD. However, there remains hope we, the people, can overthrow this mechanism through democracy and or a peaceful uprising. The conspirators' worst fear is exposure for their crimes against humanity, and for their collaboration with their alleged enemies in behind-the-scenes backroom shady deals to defraud the people and render them into slaves under a one-world king. The conspirators must remain in hiding, operating their key players from behind the scenes for their conspiracy to be successful. In order to do this, they apply Hegelian dialectics to pit one side of any issue against the other, and get brother to kill brother in a disagreement they foment between them over an ideal both share. The CFR was founded